Tested it yet. Okay, here we are. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. If you're watching the replay, please make sure to just drop a line and tell us hello as well. We'll get back to that. I'm so excited to be doing my first LinkedIn Live. Just got approved like 20 minutes ago, so we made this happen. It was kind of serendipitous because over a month ago, we planned to chat today, Carol Ann and I. We both work with leaders in much different capacities, and we met years ago at the Providence Lady Project. It was such a wonderful organization that brought female leaders together and made a safe place for us to really collaborate, network, contribute to each other in a way that wasn't competitive and was really celebratory of everybody's gifts and journey. And so we've crossed paths several times, like through Nexus, which is another wonderful organization. And I just really appreciate your contribution to the coaching space and have heard wonderful testimonies about your work. And it's, I feel like you're such a great kind of complement to the work I do because it's so different. And I'm excited to just really chat with you about your experience so far as being a coach, the different leaders and organizations you've worked with, and really where you see it going from here. So I'd love to, well, first, why don't you tell people about yourself and how you define what you do?
Sure. Thanks, Brittany. I'm so excited to be here with you today on LinkedIn Live. My name is Carol Ann Penny. I'm the founder of Penny Leadership, and I'm a strategic career coach for mission-driven leaders. I help them to navigate their career and leadership journeys with purpose and resilience. So there are a lot of executive coaches out there that work with, senior leadership, C-suite people. I'm there for everyone else, everyone who wants to lead no matter where they are in an organization and who are navigating emerging leadership, the middle parts of their careers, and really trying to create their own custom career path. Because one thing that we've learned is that change is so much a part of how we navigate our work in our lives, and also that we want our work to be meaningful and impactful. We want to be valued and we want to create value. And so I help people to really think about what would be fulfilling for them, where they want to plug in so that they can make intentional choices and really be the leaders of their own career paths.
Wow. Beautifully put. I see that all the time, especially on LinkedIn. I don't know what it is about being a coach on LinkedIn, but I have like a million other coaches who reach out to me. But I see so many people focused on that C-suite and that top level of leadership. And that's like a very small percentage of folks. And you're right. Like how about coaching people on how to get there?
Mm-hmm.
Not even having that be the end goal, but just like developing yourselves along the way.
Exactly. I get a lot of messages on LinkedIn from people who want to help me grow my coaching business to 6 figures.
Mm-hmm.
And so just like with that, there's sort of this obsession with growth for growth's sake. And I think a lot of people feel this pressure in their careers as well to just keep that linear trajectory going, like forward and up as fast as possible. But the work that I do is really about, and you too, helping people to figure out what is meaningful, what not just bigger, but better. And be really strategic about the ways that you want to grow, because it's not necessarily about forward and up. It's about aligning with what matters to you most.
Mm-hmm. Totally. It's so refreshing to hear you say that. I remember like early on when I started working for myself, I felt like I was on such an island because I was focused on creating a 4-day work week for myself. And a lot of people thought that was like crazy. Why are you doing that like that early? That's like when you hit 60 or something. And I just totally believe in when you create the life the way you want it, and you are driven by the values that are really true and authentic for you, that you don't have to follow this kind of industrial revolution work week, and you don't have to abide by the goals that other people in our culture are with the bigger for bigger sake, faster for faster sake. It's I felt really lonely though when I first started down that. It just felt unpopular to share that. And even times now, like when people ask me about how I work, I don't work 5 days a week. We're both moms, we have little kids, and that was a really major reason for going into business when I did, so that I could have that freedom, that ability to be able to put my family as a high priority for myself. And I make sure to share that in the work that I do, so that it kind of gives people permission to share things that are important to them as well.
Mm. Yeah, you mentioned the work schedule from the Industrial Revolution. I mean, the 40-hour work week is based on railroad workers and how much physical labor they could really pack into a week. And so our work now is so beyond that. It's about knowledge, which is draining in a whole different way.
Mm.
And so with the way that we work and also the way that our career paths look, it's so different than it used to be. And there's a lot that we have to let go of in terms of old beliefs and expectations from previous generations, our grandparents, our parents, who were navigating something really different. And so having these new ways to wrap your head around what's possible, and the language to really talk about what's meaningful to you and what you want from your life is the way to break through all of that noise.
Awesome. So how would you define leadership?
The way that I define leadership is moving forward through the unknown. So whether you're leading a team or you're leading yourself, it's about where you take things when there is no map. And this year of all years, we've really learned a lot about that. I think it's been a crash course in leadership for everyone. Often when I talk with my clients about leadership, they're hesitant to own that title because they think of leadership as formal authority, especially having direct reports. Like, I supervise someone, therefore I'm a leader.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that we're all leading, we're all practicing leadership. It's not a destination, it's a way of being. And so it's all about how you show up when there is no map and when you don't know, what's next. What are you made of in that moment? How about you, Brittany? I'm curious how you define it.
Yeah, I define it a little differently, and you're right. I think about it much outside of that lens of a kind of command and control, direct reports view. Which I really think when you hear that word leadership, I do think people go that direction. Like they think about a corporate work environment, but I see myself as a leader in my family. Helping everybody kind of achieve the highest good for themselves. And what does that look like? As somebody who has a utilitarian perspective in mind, what's the greatest good we can achieve for the most amount of people, whether that's an organization, a community. But often leadership is really about, like you said, there's that element of the unknown. And so I define it as being willing to say the thing that nobody else will say.
Mm.
And I see that show up all the time in my work, that people really know when you can kind of weed out the noise and the distraction. Most people have a knowingness about what they truly desire, where they want to go, how they feel. But there is a block between knowing that and being able to live it fully and experience it. And that space, how people move forward through that space, is how I define leadership.
That's a really juicy way to define it. Yeah, there's so much packed in there. That inner knowing that you talk about, I so appreciate that. And I think you talk about the block between feeling it and speaking it, but I also think there's a block in accessing it, because we've been taught through education, through our society, whatever, to look for answers outside of ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so, especially when I'm talking with people about their leadership styles, often there are these quizzes that you can take that, like, you're one of 6 types of leaders. Mm-hmm. And so we look to those to tell us who we are. But we know who we are. It's just a matter of how can we rebuild that trust with ourselves and access that kind of inner knowing. And that starts with values, which you brought up And so really uncovering those and bringing them out to clarify what they are, to define them. And that helps. It helps you to have the words to be able to speak things and share things outwardly.
Totally. I also find that having those values helps with decision making, because there's so many times where something tough is happening. I mean, 2020 is such a perfect example of this. Unexpectedly, out of the blue, huge cause for having to evaluate, where do I go next? And I saw so many people kind of spinning in overwhelm, seeing what other people were doing. And kind of, that was like that bigger, faster, stronger for faster sake in April. I really felt like it was like everyone was like delivering free content. Everybody was like, giving a sale on their services or something. And I'm tried to make it a practice of, when I was working with organizations, to bring them back to their values, because that is the very thing that will speak the loudest to your community. And when you're consistent with that, people come to recognize you for those values, those things that you stand for, which can really provide that differentiation from you and another competitor. And even to speak about it on an individual basis, who you are, how you show up, how you lead, that really becomes your brand. But it should always be guided by this value set that is really true to you and true to the vision that you're trying to create for your life.
Exactly. So with my definition of leadership, when you're moving forward, when there is no map, the values are kind of a compass for you. That's what helps you to know, I should go this way, or I should lead people this way. And in those moments when there's no clear way forward, we need something to guide us. And that is the most authentic, grounded way to move forward.
How do you work with people in determining those values? I think you mentioned a compass.
Yeah, when I work with people, it's over the course of 2 to 3 months, and we build out their compass, which is it starts with values. That's the heart of everything. Their mission is how they express their values in the world. Their vision for the kind of impact they want to have also stems from their values. Their leadership style is completely based on their values. So the values are the place that I always start. And we do, I have them look through this big long list and circle all the ones that resonate with them. And then they have to whittle them down to the ones that they just can't live without, and really define them. Because whether we know it or not, those values are guiding our decisions. So when you actually give words to them, you can use them consciously as a tool.
Cool. I love that. I recently was rereading Start with the Why by Simon Sinek, which I'm sure you've read. And it always brings me back. The number one thing I got from that book was the values as verbs piece, because I agree, like starting with the values is so important. But one thing I see organizations struggle with is, how do we live that day to day in everything we do, beyond just having it on like this beautiful motivational poster, like in the break room? Like, what does that really look like? Because it's cool to talk about, but it's a struggle to make it central to everything you do.
Yeah, values are not words, they're behaviors. And they can be for an individual, or they can be for an organization. I'm such a nerd, because over the weekend, my family, my 5-year-old and my husband and I sat down and we started to define our family values, because we needed to kind of have something to bring us back to the kind of kindness, the kind of love that we want to have in our house. And having those shared words is really helpful. And we talk about what they look like in action. For me, I always have my values. I've got them right up over my computer here. So they're always in my eyesight. And if I'm faced with a decision, I'll take a look at these and I'll say, okay, how can I approach this situation from a place of curiosity, which is one of my values? Or what would it look like to show up to this conversation with connection? And so they're a way in when I'm not sure what to do. And they're also a way that I express myself And if something's not flowing, it's because there's a value that's being stopped up or rubbed against underneath it. And so coming back to these, if something's feeling off, or if I'm feeling nervous about an interaction or anything like that, I look at these and they can be a guide to me to show like what's really going on. So, this conversation isn't, I'm worried about it. What is it that I'm worried about? Oh, well, I don't feel connected to this person. So how can I, foster that in this conversation? So actually looking at them and using them on a regular basis, not just like having them on the wall and checking off the box and saying, yep, we did that. We have values. That's not what they're for. They're for living.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. So you're not alone. We're like a total nerd family too. And I'm big on, I like to start with vision, and not from like a mission visions place, but like actually when I start by asking people like a miracle question, like if you could have every like existing thing solved in your life and it would be exactly as you would love your life to be, what does that look like when you first wake up? And I have people kind of describe their day, just like an average Wednesday, but living this like the way that they are striving for. And from there, as they start to describe things, it becomes really clear what they value, and then obviously ask for clarity and concreteness to make sure it's the same as I'm hearing it. But that is how I like to like reverse engineer it as what it looks like as they play it out. Because you're right, that we need these reminders. We need to have examples of how do we implement this, integrate it deeply into our lives to make it central to our day to day. It's easy to forget. It's easy to forget about like the love and kindness you're trying to create in your house when you're stressed and you're trying to make it to a work meeting, you're trying to get your kid out the door and get them at their, online school or whatever. And so, having that place you come back to is so important.
Totally. So in this year, when you're working with entrepreneurs whose, their work is changing, the conditions are shifting, how do you help them get to that place of possibility of the miracle question, as you said, and feel connected to those values when a lot of decisions are being made out of fear instead of out of purpose?
Yeah. Well, first, I just want to say hi to Dan, who wrote us a comment about, or just saying when what you do is in line with why you do and how you want to express it, will give you, you will have passion, and the passion is the fuel that gives you the energy to pursue your dreams. Thanks for commenting on that. And Dan is someone I believe I met through the Y Institute. So he really knows this stuff. So I'm so glad that you chimed in. So sorry, Carolyn, will you ask me again?
Yeah. So you were talking about reverse engineering values and starting with vision. And so this year has been a tough time to vision, right? Because we can't look too far ahead. And we're making decisions in the moment, often out of fear rather than out of purpose. And so it's a lot to juggle that sense of possibility and purpose with the limitations that we have going on. And so how have you been helping the leaders that you work with through that?
Well, one thing I do with every leader is I make sure I understand their self-care, because that looks different for everybody. But I want to make sure, especially this year, that there is space for that leader to just be that person, and to have space from the organization as much as they need to be able to come back restored and revitalized to lead, because it takes a lot out of you. You show up for other people all day long, and you need to recharge that battery. I found that fear was really taking over. It was leading to increase in anxiety, cortisol. So restoration really became a big part of how I was helping people. But when fear takes over, I try to help people work through their worst fear. And a lot of times it's about money, about having to fire people. I work with some bigger organizations, so they're trying to work with their teams. They're, thinking about customers that won't have the money to pay them. And we work through some of the worst fear and try to come up with, in that situation, let's say you lose your biggest account, what do we do? How should we manage it moving forward? And once we kind of have a plan, even though it might not be their favorite plan, at least we've kind of created some concreteness around how to proceed if that indeed happens. And this might seem like, what, how are you addressing fear? You would be amazed at how much it actually gives people like a sigh of relief to have stepped into that really scary place and know that there is a plan if that happens. And then it allows people to kind of let go of that. It's like when you are juggling like a to-do list in your head and then you write it down, and that like relief you feel of, oh my gosh, like I don't have to hold all that.
Mm-hmm.
Because so much, I feel like so much of leadership this year has been lonely.
Mm-hmm.
There's no map. There's no guide to tell you what to do in the middle of a pandemic. When I work with a lot of service-based organizations, so there's tons of people. They are based on interaction and providing a service. And how do you do that right now? Right. So when fear takes over, I walk people through their worst fear, and there's a tremendous amount of relief that can come. And then I ask people a question: what if it were easy? What would you do? How would you move forward? What decision would you make right now if you knew it would be easy to implement that or to get that done? And it changes the way people think about it, because I know even for myself, I have that reminder up on my little digital pin board here. I sometimes get stuck and thinking like, oh, we were talking about this before we went live, right? I'm like, oh my gosh, now I've got to get all these people lined up for LinkedIn Live because, I don't want them to take it away from me. But what if that were easy? What if it just meant I sent out 5 messages and I had 5 people who wanted to come on and do a chat with me? And that changes the weight of like having to do that work. It's easy now, and then I'll just move on.
Even just hearing that question makes me feel like, because I think I talk with a lot of people about the beliefs about work that they grew up with in their homes. And I think a lot of us are still holding on to those. And a big one that I hear from a lot of people is work is hard. Mm-hmm. You got to work hard. You got to do it. And it's a necessary evil, or you got to put the effort in, or you got to keep going no matter what. And so we expect it to be hard, effortful, a slog. And for me, my own experience with that is that I was slogging away when I was a leader in an organization, and I woke up every morning, and on paper, I was very successful, but it didn't feel good. It felt like a slog. And so is that really success? It can't be. Success would feel good. And so I love that question about what if it were easy, because just because we're doing work doesn't mean it has to be hard. When I work with people to understand their values and what their strengths are and the kind of impact they want to have, it's like they move from swimming upstream to moving with the current. And there's an ease to that because you're more aligned with the natural fuel, which Dan brought up, that gives you energy and motivation instead of, climbing up a hill, essentially.
I love that visualization. It is just makes so much sense. I think about like the salmon, when you see them like, it's like so much work, and there's like a bear like trying to get you like at the same time. And like, oh, it'd be so much easier to just go downstream and just like stay, with the current and just flow.
Yeah, and like swim and enjoy.
Yeah.
Just our one precious life here, and that doesn't mean you have to quit your job and start your own business. It means getting clear on the kind of skills that give you energy and motivation, what your dreams are, because once you start naming those, you can find ways to, job craft, to tweak your job, or to think about things differently to align better. It doesn't mean that you have to, change species entirely. You can't be a salmon anymore. But there are small and big ways to align with the current.
Awesome. One question you brought up, which I would love to ask you, is what are your superpowers in this space, and how do you help people?
My superpower is synthesis. Anytime I talk with people, they say to me, "Oh my God, I'm not making any sense. I just blabbered on for a long time." You probably experienced this in your work too, because this is what coaching is, right? We provide this space where they can kind of dump out everything in their head and their heart. They feel like it doesn't make any sense. But I'm there to sort of catch the little pieces and say, "Okay, I heard you say three things there. You said this, this, and this." And they're like, "Oh my God, did I really say that?" And so to be that kind of mirror, the sounding board that can reflect those things back to someone so that they can access their own wisdom or understand and organize their thoughts so that they can figure out how they're going to take action on them and with a sense of clarity.
Mhm.
That is my favorite thing. There's a lot of ease to that for me. It's not hard work, but it's so valuable because we all need that opportunity to get clear for ourselves and to unload the mess of things going on in our minds.
Mm.
What about you, Brittany? What's your superpower?
I see my superpower as providing insight. So I got my start as a psychologist and did a lot of listening and learning tools like that for communication, helping people see what might not be easy to see for them. And um, that often happens in my work where we're having a conversation about um, like what got somebody there and why it might not be working anymore. And in that space, through that exploration of where they're at, where they're trying to get to, I love to dive into that gap of where they're at, where they're trying to go, and pull out maybe what worked that got them to this place, but is probably holding them back now
Mm,
for future success. And when you can create that kind of insight for somebody, even just a small thing. The other day, I spoke with somebody about the nature of a relationship that two employees were having. And I just reframed it as this kind of like emotional relationship. And the leader was like blown away and was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't think about it that way. The implications of this, the way it's changing the environment for other people and the culture and how that's impacting work." It really, in a moment, I love how you can create that and it changes the way people see things
mm.
forever. And that's the focus when I first start meeting with people of how do we create these moments of insight that can really change what's possible.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about leadership and growing as leaders, so much is about specific skill building. But
Mhm.
I've learned more and more that those mindset shifts can change everything. And talk about letting it be easy. It's not like you have to learn this whole new thing and master it. It's just the way that you frame it in your mind just shifts. And so you can see the problem differently, or you can see the opportunity differently and a different way into it. So that's so valuable that you offer those moments to people to really gain that insight.
Thank you. So what's ahead for you? So this infamous year of 2020 is coming to a close, and I'm certain you're already looking ahead. What's up there for you?
Yeah, well, right now, so many people are asking big questions about their careers, whether they've been laid off or their workflow just looks really different than it has been before. They're asking, is this what I want to be doing? Is this what my skills are? When the office opens up again, do I really want to be there? And so I'm really enjoying being there for people to provide them skills, insight, space, tools, everything to grapple with those questions, because they're really lonely questions. It's not something that we can talk openly about with our colleagues. And so having a space where you can actually move out of that like spinning around in the same thoughts and make them productive to move forward, that's what I'm hoping to do. I've got openings in January for career mapping sessions, which is a single one-on-one coaching session where we kind of take stock of where you've been and where you want to go and get you started to go there. And then I have openings for that 2 to 3 month one-on-one work and a group program starting in February. So I'm just really excited to work with some new people and help them along the way in developing their meaningful career paths and their authentic leadership. How about you, Brittany? What's on the horizon?
For the last just over 2 months, I've been doing a complete overhaul of my services, which are the offerings that I have, which has been actually really wonderful. It's like that area of growth that is slightly uncomfortable, but I'm actually so excited about it. I feel like um, it's the perfect offering of that pulls on my superpowers and skill set. And it's really a leadership and cultural assessment that can happen organization wide, and that it gives the leader the space to dive in, like you said, and explore and look for insights and grow their skills and tools that they use to really lead an organization, but to also get a really great temperature reading on how is their team doing, how are they feeling about their work in the organization and the values, and how is the organization living in that. And then I get to stay on and work through the first phase of implementation with organizations, which is so important to me. I feel like there's so many things out there that it's like, here you go, like, here's the strategy, make it yours. Or, here's this book about what you should do. And it's the questions really come up when you're first trying these new things. And so I've really shaped it to be on board and make it a success.
That's fantastic. I love that you work with the leaders and the whole organization, because those things go so much together, and really integrating those insights to help them take root and to actually hold, with you as a coach, being able to work through all the little ways that they play out in a particular organization. I can see that being so valuable.
Yeah. Thank you. So how can people reach out to you if they have questions about anything you've spoken about today? If someone's watching this later on, how can they find you?
They can connect with me on LinkedIn. They can follow me at Carol Ann Penny. My website is pennyleadership.com, and I have a newsletter that I send out twice a month with some thoughts and tools on different parts of your career and leadership journey. So that's the best way to stay connected. And I hope to be doing more things like this and keep the conversation going with you, Brittany.
Awesome. I would love that. We should do another check-in and then follow up and see how things have been going. And especially as things continue to evolve for leaders and managers and organizations as we go into 21.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks so much for joining me on this first live broadcast. It's been so much fun to chat with you. You have so much great wisdom and knowledge to share with everyone. So thanks again.
Thanks. Likewise, Brittany.
Bye.
Bye.